Our special guest, I just had him come into the room. Everybody, please welcome Tom Thummery.
On this episode of Omegle.
Know that I'm here, and your white privileges are going to save you tonight, okay, guys?
Smooths itself out. Tell you what I'll do if I ever get back. I promise to refabricate you, raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised.
That's right. It's time for the Dog and Chicken Show. And welcome back. That's right, folks. It is time. Episode 91 of the Dog and Chicken Show, approaching our 2-year benchmark. Holy shit. And as always, flanked on my side, Tony fucking G. What's up, brother?
Not much. I'm fucking exhausted. I've got about 7.5 hours of sleep.
And so has your
the
internet.
Last 2 nights. Mm-hmm. So forgive me if I'm not my typical self.
Okay, this is a great intro.
I was about to say, Tony, we got about 20% of that.
I'm wearing my Oklahoma shirt. Okay.
Yes, we're going to talk about the Oklahoma City bombing while Tony refreshes. Let's introduce the man, the myth, the legend. The pod. Hold on. I can't fucking say it. You do it.
I was about to say, Chicken, come on now. It is I, the man, the myth, the legend, the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man who makes the other podcast cower, the prince and potentate of the political parlance, the emperor of Big Bucking Empire, and also the lord of the Scottish Highlands, the conqueror of the ethereal, and one damn handsome man, if I do say so myself. Your King of Extreme, Phil KOE. You can find me at KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch, folks. And we are here to discuss a very, very tragic occurrence in the city of Oklahoma to really tie together our 3-part series on some very big events that have happened throughout our lives, but we were kind of young for them. So this is us taking a second look along with all of you right here at Big Bucking Empire. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, follow on Facebook and on Twitch, folks. And with all that being said, let's get right into the topic du jour this evening and all the things that happen here at the glorious show that is Big Bucking Empire Thirsty Thursdays on the Dog and Chicken Show. Gentlemen, how are we doing this evening?
Great. This has been a journey of revisiting some history. Like you said, we were children when all these events happened. And those of you that watched all 3 of these, hats off to you. Fucking cheers. Drinking words down below: Waco, Ruby Ridge, FBI, Nazis, and if Tony's kids, not if, but when they interrupt the show.
When.
Yes, definitely when. I'm going beer tonight. I had a little bit of whiskey earlier. I'm switching over. Starting off with some Guinness, but I do have a couple of craft brews down below that I might tap into as we get through the show. So stay tuned. I'll give you some good reviews on what's a good drink and what's not. Tony, what you drinking?
I'll try to get this through before the internet shits all over me. Currently in my glass, I have Teeling Single Pot. It's a bit of an obscure one. It's one that we had to get from overseas, but I really like it. It's very nice. I like the single pot Irish whiskeys, and this one's a little bit young. I mean, this is one that in a few years they could really have a really, really nice one here. I think they got something special started with this one.
Nice. And Phil sitting in the oven that is his house because he forgot
Yeah.
to turn on his AC.
No, I had it turned on. It just didn't kick on till I got home. So I'm in the sultry heat here, folks. But do not worry. I will persevere because I am drinking Ron Zacapa Sistema Solera 23-year Guatemalan rum mixed with a little bit of peach juice. Not much, just a little on a big old ice cube. And it's going to cool me down perfectly, folks. I'm about to take my first sip. Let's see how it goes.
Oh, that is such good stuff.
Oh, gorgeous. I mean, yeah, just amazing. You can mix it with anything and it just works. Or you can have it
I drink
straight.
it neat. Yeah, I like it neat. That stuff's amazing.
I mix just a little peach juice just because it's a little warm and, a special occasion and all, because we are here together on the Dog and Chicken Show for Thirsty Thursdays. What could be a more special occasion than that, folks? I mean, come on. So,
You're damn right.
So, Chicken, while the temperature goes down here, the anxiety and the issues are about to go up as we discuss this very, very controversial topic and a tragic topic for many. So, with all that being said, we will get into the topic du jour this evening. Chicken, Tony, take it away.
So I guess we'll start. Like we kind of have some timelines and some things set up here. A lot of this starts with Timothy McVeigh. Now, real quick, folks, if you're jumping into the show, if you don't know, we're not going to post comments this week. This is a pre-recorded show. Next week we will be live. But definitely send us questions, comments, concerns, hate mail at the Dog and Chicken Show at gmail.com. Whatever you need to do. But we're going to try to go through this timeline here and try to give some perspective on not only what happened. This all started with Ruby Ridge, then it went to Waco, and now here we are at the Oklahoma City bombing. That's 2 drinks, folks. Hit it up. But 1988, Timothy McVeigh, Terry Nichols, and Michael Fortier enlisted in the U.S. Army. Now, I believe Terry Nichols was his commanding officer. I could be wrong on that. But they grew up or came through the military together. Timothy McVeigh joined when he was like 20. He had ambitions to joining like special forces, and I believe before he got sent to the first Gulf War, he was like about to go through like some of the standardized testing and all that stuff. But then he got called over into Iraq and Kuwait for the first Gulf War. And that's where some of his history may have turned him into kind of being I don't know, might have flipped the switch in his head because he didn't particularly have a bad childhood. He may have been bullied a little bit.
If you ask
school.
him, like there was no like traumatic event in his childhood that made him the way he was that I'm aware of. But according to him, he had just the absolute worst childhood you could possibly have. Now, I'm not making any defenses for the guy because the guy was a piece of shit. The guy was absolutely off his rocker. He went down the wrong rabbit holes, whole hog, and he just let not even peer pressure, just bad ideas influence his entire life. But I will say this. This is the type of guy that doesn't need to be poked in any way. Now, we all know that children can be absolutely fucking ruthless. I think one of the nicknames he got was like Noodle McVeigh, and which is so goddamn minuscule and insignificant, but children take these things to heart. We all know this. So you got to understand that he did get picked on quite a bit, according to him. So there's our first drink.
Let's kids interrupt. Drink
Hey!
time. All kids get bullied a little bit, and I know that today's standards, you're not allowed to bully anybody. Please bring bullying back, people. We need to bully some people. Just kidding. Allegedly, maybe not. But
Pause for edit.
Yeah. No, we'll leave that in there. The
views
deal,
of Chicken do not necessarily reflect the views of the Dog and Chicken
Show.
Shit.
Yeah.
Wait,
God damn
Okay.
it. Anyway,
Yep, and
so
now there were 2.
So he gets deployed into the first Gulf War. Now there's some pretty damning accounts of friends of his that he had told some of his war stories to. So take this with a grain of salt, because if any of you know anybody who's actually been to war, been to battle, actually had to fire at another human being in the act of war, they're usually not so forthcoming and willing to tell that story. They usually withhold that. Now, granted, this is potentially a madman, so who knows what the psyche is, but apparently he started getting more distrustful of the United States government, and as you can tell from the prior 2 episodes, that's kind of what leads him into this scenario. He was, according to one person that told his account, and I think he actually stood by this account, was he was ordered to shoot at even people surrendering, which I doubt that's the case. But he did admittedly fire at Iraqi soldiers that were trying to surrender in the Gulf War. In one account, struck a combatant soldier in the head. So in likely, from what I've seen, there was not much or any remorse for that scenario. So.
I was about to say,
he was basically a sociopath at some degree.
Yes,
that sounds kind of like a war crime, but yeah, I wasn't there, but there's sounds a little fishy when you're. So you're saying he shot someone that was trying to surrender, or was in the process of surrendering?
That was what he had told a friend of his. Yes.
Oh my! So either bragging about a war crime or making one up to aggrandize themselves to their friends, which you really have to wonder about the psyche of someone like that. Well, I mean, I guess we saw where that led, but yeah, like, again, most sociopaths, people have this kind of wrong image of serial killers as like these super geniuses. It's really generally not the case. Sociopaths like that lie a lot and aggrandize a lot, and so I would almost bet money on that being fiction, a whole cloth fabrication within his own mind. Now, that's just
not everybody's Hannibal Lecter.
Yeah, that's why I prefaced it with like, this is according to some of the stories he told and other people. But yeah, that it is super weird that somebody would come out and admit that.
I don't doubt that instance happened. I doubt it happened the way he describes it happening. I'm sure he probably did fire upon somebody trying to surrender, but his warped and twisted justification of a scenario like that just gets more and more warped and twisted as you'll see as this story progresses.
So, well, he used that story to claim that he was ordered to do that by the U.S. government. He did not want to, but he was just following orders. Super fucking convenient.
No, he was not. Like,
yeah,
I'm sorry,
I know.
That order.
I know. Super convenient excuse, right? But anyway, so he does get discharged. Does it say what year, Tony, that he gets discharged? I lost my timeline here.
Let's see.
Okay,
88, he joined the Army.
91, he is his eligibility test for special forces. He's got to drop out of that, and then in December 91,
let me guess, not high enough IQ and doesn't play well with others.
Doesn't specify, but probably.
If I had to guess. Because again, I bet he thought he was some super Hannibal Lecter genius, but once you actually do the IQ test on all of these folks, are not nearly as high as you'd think they would be.
Now, he did, I don't know, a lot of people did say he was very likable. He was very fairly intelligent, maybe not super intelligent, but most people thought like he was not only a very likable person, but came off as highly intelligent. So I don't know.
Yeah,
IQ test
I don't think super genius is ever going to be mistaken for this guy, but I think he was personable enough that nobody thought he was a fucking idiot by any means. And that's just it. Like this isn't like the David Koresh level of persuasion artist or the I want to just live away from the government because they scare me Randy Weaver situation. This is a guy who day by day gets more and more and more suspicious and distrusting of the government to the point where it makes him violent. It makes him want to share his violent views, and it makes him lash out in a very violent way. And this, like we said, this was one of the first instances of his violence and just what he was capable of.
I was about to say, I mean, if he's sharing these stories with his friends, this kind of shows that he's got this violent ideology and ideation and this violent fantasy. And when the military didn't fulfill it, looks like he had to go, like he was making, like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. No proof, but you don't need a weather vane to know which way the wind is blowing. He was making stories up about things he did at war to aggrandize himself to his buddies. And then the violent ideation just became more and more and more in his head. And well, we're going to get to how that all culminated here in a little bit, guys.
Well, think about the times too. Is so this is how he's coming up prior to some major events in history. So when he gets out of the army in 91, he's got a supposed distaste and distrust of the government already. And then you see what happens to Randy Weaver. You see what happens to David Koresh. And if he's already has that mindset and that tendency, like he actually sat out in front of Waco, Texas when that was happening, and was like selling like bumper stickers and books and stuff, trying to get people rallied up out there. Like he really dug his foot in the sand on the whole anti-government push. But it went further than that, unfortunately.
Well, not just that. Yeah, he dug deep, like you said. Like I think Timothy McVeigh is a big reason why a lot of the anti-gun people in the country today have such a hard time grasping the concept of a gun show, because they're terrified of people like this, because what he was doing at gun shows and gun trading expos was pretty fucking bad. Like he was selling like handmade t-shirts with like what was it, the quote from John Wilkes Booth, or just some really well, I'm going to say the word Nazi ideology.
Yeah, what was the book he was reading? I'm trying to look it up right now.
Something Diaries.
Yeah, but it was. Now, I have not read this book. I've seen debating reviews of this book, if it's actually full-on Nazi and fascist rhetoric. But from like a brief description of it, it's basically an end-of-the-world apocalypse book. And like, I fucking hate quoting the reviews, because some of them were like, it's the end of the world where the whiteys try to just take over. I'm like, okay. So I read another review and they're like, yeah, that's like, I could see how people would get that, but that wasn't the point of the book. I don't know the book. I'm not going to defend it. It sounds majority of people did not like the book.
It's called the Turner Diaries.
Turner Diaries.
Oh, okay.
It's called the Turner Diaries, and this is essentially like the neo-Nazi drink again handbook. That now he went to his death, basically trying to make everybody understand. No, it wasn't about the race. What about the race? It was the ideology. The racism was there, but it wasn't about that. It was about the idea, man, which is ridiculous all in itself. But just to expand on some of this, the post-military life, he's writing letters to local newspapers. He's complaining about taxes. He's writing representatives about police and lies and firearm restrictions. Let's see, what was the big? That's when Clinton signed the assault weapons ban. He got a big fucking problem with that. Visiting friends in Decker. Yeah. He's visiting friends in Decker, Michigan. This is all coming from Wikipedia, by the way, on Timothy McVeigh himself. McVeigh reportedly complained that the Army had implanted a microchip into his ass so they could keep track of him. Yeah.
And now it all turns. That was the moment, right? When you said microchip in the ass. Yeah. And now it all takes a turn now, folks. And now it's about to get a lot more ape shit crazy from here.
Now he's a lone only guy who doesn't really have a girlfriend, so he's
What?
feeling like he's romantically inclined, if you can believe that. Wonder why, because all the guy does is talk about the fucking Turner Diaries. So, gee, I wonder why women weren't into that.
Yeah,
So that's starting to frustrate the guy. He started gambling a lot, and he got really, really deep into gambling on the Super Bowl. And this was the 4-year stretch where the Buffalo Bills went 4 straight years and lost each and every time. So he lost a bunch of money on that. And then I believe he leaves New York after that.
It's a bad run. This is like a string of bad luck. Like Buffalo Bills didn't win for 4 years straight. Randy Weaver and David Koresh get fucked over by the U.S. government. I got kicked out of the fucking army, and I couldn't go to fucking the goddamn This is just like a string of bad luck for a loser. It sounds like.
Yeah. So at this point, he's getting deep into it. Like you said, he's down on his luck. Now he's talking to his sister about the anti-government literature.
You're my sister. No, sorry.
Yeah, you're my sister. You're my sister. He moves out of his father's house into an apartment with no phone.
Whoa!
So he couldn't even
How old was he?
Employer.
He's in his 20s now.
Okay, all right, got there anyways.
Yeah. So at this point, he quits the NRA like because they're too weak on gun rights. So.
Woo!
Yeah, NRA was too weak on gun rights in the 90s, according to. Yeah,
I was about to say the only organization that did anything to preserve any gun rights in the 90s, but yeah, like again, I get that a lot in a lot of different debates. Is people who try to make the perfect the enemy of the good, and it's you're never gonna get anywhere with those folks.
No. Definitely not.
I think Tony just got interrupted again by the kids. So I think we need to drink.
Let's take a drink while he's spinning circle there. I'll put him off to the side.
Yeah.
So yeah, this guy's like really bad luck. Nothing's working out for him. You got a lot of national events and national issues coming up. A lot of political rhetoric keeps popping back around. Uh-oh. Just when I thought he was back. Just when I thought he was back.
Circle Tony returns.
Now imagine the political rhetoric today. I remember back in the 90s, a lot of the political rhetoric. I don't think it was nearly as charged as it is now.
No. And there was a lot, there was actually a poll of Republicans and Democrat. It was a metadata, it compiled a lot of different polls together. And it showed that back in the 90s, let's say, okay, here is, because this is on the right side of your screen, folks, this is the Republicans. Here's the Democrats, okay? In the 90s, there was a lot closer there was a lot more similarity of opinions between Republicans and the Democrats in the 90s. Now there's almost no you're going to find a very slim majority, about 15% between the two parties that actually share similar opinions. And so, there was not nearly the same hypercharged rhetoric where pretty much on the left, anybody to the right of Noam Chomsky is a Nazi fascist, and for the right, anybody to the left of Ted Cruz is a socialist. You've never, that kind of rhetoric was not existent in the United States in the 90s.
Yeah, it was pretty even keel, and not many people paid attention. Now, granted, the internet wasn't a thing, cell phones weren't a thing, communication was a lot slower. TV was, not everybody had cable. Some people had box tube TVs with antennas still. Communication was a lot slower. My grandma had one. Yeah, so growing up, I didn't have cable. We had a box tube TV with fucking antenna. I remember standing there holding it up so we could watch The Simpsons sometimes, because I was the youngest brother, and my older brothers were kind of assholes, and I it's not the shortest straw. Sometimes it's the youngest. But
waka waka
waka waka.
So
anyway, Tony might be back. We're gonna see. He looks super happy. He looks.
How we doing there, T? How we doing there, T?
I don't know. Really annoyed. I had to restart the whole goddamn thing.
It's all good. All good. We filled in some time for you. So McVeigh goes through this 3-year period. Again, the Randy Weaver incident happens. You have Ruby Ridge, you have Waco, drink. Go on through this time, and it just pours gas on his fire of hatred for the government, and he sees the ATF involved in both of these of trying to restrict gun rights. You got obviously legislation going through, all kinds of shit. So he is paranoid as fuck at this point. The government's out to take your guns, and he thinks if something were to happen, the country will revolt and take back the country from a tyrannical government. This is the idea that pops into his mind. So he gets with Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier and tries to concoct a plan. Now they go scout several government buildings across the country, and they land in Oklahoma City and the Murrah Federal Building in downtown. This is where they ultimately decide that they're going to go. So in October of 94, this is where McVeigh supposedly uses soup cans to show how he would arrange explosives in a specific V shape inside of a truck to cause maximum destruction. We can get into the conspiracy theories on the explosion and if it can be replicated or not. We'll talk about that after the timeline's over. But at that point, the plan's in place. They go get all the supplies they need. What I'm trying to remember, they had to get like fertilizers, some other chemicals. It was like 6,200 pounds that they'd thrown into the back of this fucking truck that they're gonna park in front of this fucking building. So April 17th, he rents the Ryder truck under a name Robert. Oh God, now it's escaping me. I'm sure it's on the Wikipedia. But
while you look that up, again, this asshole is the reason why there is a greater amount of checks and there's all this unnecessary paperwork for the chain of custody of fertilizers. Because he was the guy. Again, as a farmer, I can tell you that there is quite a paperwork trail for the chain of custody of fertilizers now post Timothy McVeigh, and it's because of him and this incident. And so fucking asshole made fucking farmers' lives the fucking country over more fucking difficult, just amongst all the other fucking shitty things this guy did. So
so
add another one to the tally.
He was in Harrington, Kansas. He loaded, supplies into the Ryder truck. So he builds this bomb. So held 13 barrels in place and mixed chemicals using plastic buckets and a bathroom scale to weigh everything. Each filled barrel weighed 500 pounds. And then he added more explosives to the driver's side of the cargo bay, which he could ignite, killing himself in the process at close range with his Glock 21 pistol in case the primary fuses failed. So he had a backup plan. He was willing to die to do this. So he didn't have a care at this point.
But he didn't die.
No, because the fuse lit. So he was able to, but we'll get to that.
Okay. I got you. That was the backup plan. I thought that was the primary. It's like, but wait, what?
No. So anyway,
there was more to this. But yeah, God damn, that's just terrible. So maximum amount of damage possible from this. Now, I don't understand what what was the hope? Again, we're trying to reach into the mind of madness and trying to understand it, but it's like, yeah, that's not going to make everybody go, hey, the government sucks. In fact, you rallied people to the cause of federal employees who are just innocent people going to their work that day that you fucked up for no good reason. So
So to get into his brain a little bit, this is how psychotic his mindset was. so he was speaking later about his preparations, and he said, quote, "You learn how to handle killing in the military. I faced the consequences, but you learn to accept it." And then he compared his actions to the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, rather than attack on Pearl Harbor, reasoning it was necessary to prevent more lives from being lost. So he thought he was doing well. In his brain, he concocted a world in where he was preventing future deaths because he did not want another Waco or Ruby Ridge drink to. He really thought he was saving the country from this, and he thought people would rise up to defend the Constitution, the Second Amendment, in his ideology. He really thought people would see him as like a hero for doing this.
It's weird when you say that. Have you guys ever seen the Michael Moore movie Bowling for Columbine?
Yes.
Okay. Even if you hate Michael Moore, you got to give the guy credit. He's amazing at getting the good footage and the right shots. He actually goes and interviews, I forget who it is, but it's like the brother of somebody that's connected to all of this. And he's talking exactly the way you are, Chicken, except his eyes are wide like a madman. He's like, if the American people knew, they would rise up and it would just be Armageddon in the street. And I'm like, this is not like, no, wow. This is like just visually, dude.
They're going to take your guns unless you do something about it right now, folks.
Just the widest eyed madman you've ever seen in your life ranting to you about the government and all. Like, oh boy. Again, it's just like, so when you're talking about this, it's like, so, okay, it sounds like this is the way that all of this little circle was talking pretty much day in, day out, because even the brother's still babbling like this.
So, Tony, I know you just got your phone situated, but is there any way you can turn it sideways?
This is fun. Hey!
No, it's not. It's horse shit, but whatever. Yeah.
I know.
Yay, Geneva Internet.
No, I've been there myself when you're trying to get through on a panel and your shit's just all fucked up and it feels awful. Like you don't even know. It's like I pay all my bills, motherfucker. Why isn't this shit working? God damn it! Like, yeah, it's happened to me, and it happens to the best of us.
It's awful.
We're keeping that one in. That was beautiful. Oh god damn. Yeah, Tony, you sound like when Neo's traveling through the Matrix, out of the Matrix for the first time, and then he wakes up inside the pod and pulls the tube out of his throat. You know that little interim audio? Yeah. All right.
So let's move on here. We'll tell some more of the story here. So anyway, he builds the bomb, he pulls the truck up, the fuse lights, everything's good to go. So his original plan was to detonate the bomb at 11 in the morning. He decided instead to go for 9 a.m. Fun fact, this happened on what they know as Patriots Day, which is April 19th. And there's been several instances of terrorist attacks on April 19th. So just keep that in your craw, folks. Like Boston bombing. This happened. There's a few coincidences that happen on April 19th. But anyway.
So what you're saying is on April 19th, maybe just like stay in and have a nice lunch.
Yeah, not a good day to.
Not a good. Yeah. Let's go out to the big thing that's happening today, where everyone's going to be. Oh, we got to go to the thing.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. No.
So anyway, let's see. Talks about Turner Diaries. Blah blah blah. Let's see what we're in the like Wikipedia is so fucking stupid. They just throw random facts in the middle of a story. So he's bringing up Tom Burston, Thomas Jefferson, and Abraham Lincoln quotes. Like, what the fuck?
What's so funny is when you brought that up, the Turner Diaries, when I was a little boy, when they were talking about all this stuff in the news, I just hear a few little things, and there was an old neighbor man whose last name was Turner. And so it's like, then I hear the what? The Turner died? So what about old Mr. Turner? What happened? Why is he in the news? And so I
Yeah.
like so when you tell me this, I can't help like I just had all those
This guy
memories.
read
just like-
Old Man Turner's book. Like,
Yeah, that like all those memories are just like flooding back to me right now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh god. So yeah, this asshole had a way disproportionate impact on the world versus what he should have had. So
yes. Anyway, so McVeigh enters Oklahoma City at 8:50 in the morning on April 19th. Now, his two cohorts have both backed out at this point. One backed out quite a while ago, and the other one at the last moment was like, dude, no, like, we're not fucking doing this. He didn't think they would go through with it. McVeigh apparently threatened to kill him and all kinds of other shit, but went ahead with the plan anyway.
yeah, he's the one that's still sitting in federal max, ain't he? Like, because
Yep.
the one that backed out earlier, he's the one that Michael Moore
serving-
interviewed.
Yeah, he's serving like 24 or 36 life sentences with no parole. So
Yep. Yeah, he was just in a firearms related court case not too long ago because he wanted his family to inherit his firearm collection so they could at least like sell it. But the state used the precedent of you cannot profit or any money off of your crimes during your prison sentence.
Right.
And so like it was kind like you could see either way, but at the end of the day, it's like, fuck you just a little bit. You
yeah.
probably should have like mentioned something, like called the local sheriff or constable or something that, hey, maybe put an extra set of eyes on that particular set of property.
Maybe.
Yeah. So
Anyway, so he pulls up to the property, parks in front of the Murrah Federal Building. At that moment, he lit the 5-minute fuse. So 3 minutes later, he was still a block away. He lit the 2-minute fuse. So there he had multiple detonation points on this device. He parked the Ryder truck in the drop-off zone situated under the building's daycare center. Unfortunately, exited, locked the truck, and then ran or walked very quickly from there. At 9:02, the Ryder truck containing 4,800 pounds of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, nitromethane, and diesel fuel mixture detonated in front of the north side of the 9-story building. 168 people were killed and hundreds more injured. 1/3 of the building destroyed in the explosion, created a 30-foot, 8-foot deep crater in the middle of the street. The blast destroyed and damaged 324 buildings within a 4-block radius, shattering glass in 258 buildings. The broken glass alone accounted for 5% of the death toll and 69% of the injuries just from the shattered glass. The blast destroyed or burned 86 cars on the site. The destruction of the building left several hundred people homeless and shut down a number of offices in downtown Oklahoma City. The explosion was estimated to have caused $652 million worth of damage, and that's in the 90s, of course. Today, inflation.
I was about to say that was real money.
Yeah, that was back. Yeah, it was closer to real money. Still wasn't real money. So the effects of this were equivalent to 5,000 pounds of TNT. Could be felt and heard 55 miles away. That's insane. 55 miles away, people could feel a 3. It's 16 miles away. They recorded the blast measuring a 3.0 on the Richter magnitude scale for earthquakes. That's significant. That's 16 miles. That's a long distance for the ground to shake that heavily. This was a fucking real bomb. Jesus. And we're pausing.
Sorry about that. My dog was flipping the fuck out. I accidentally left him in the bedroom.
No, all good, all good.
All right, what'd you leave off on?
Left off on the blast was felt 16 miles away. Recorded the blast measuring a 3.0 on the Richter magnitude scale. So it felt like an earthquake of a 3.0 16 miles away from the blast site.
Oh, dear holy God. Now I can, like, that had to feel just like, even from blocks away, like you said, just like biblical, like the atomic bomb just dropped. And I could believe with the amount of propellant and explosive that he had, that he could absolutely do that. Like, I'm gonna just, again, this is a story from my youth. A friend of mine, youthful indiscretion, just wanted to make something really neat for 4th of July. So I told him later, like, that maybe don't do that again. But he took a big old metal pipe, filled it with just one, like half of one container of standard black powder, screwed it on either end, put a big old wick, big long wick, and he threw it out in the middle of a cornfield. So all this is half of a container of standard black powder. That was all it was. And I was standing like a quarter mile away when they lit it, and I felt the ground shaking underneath my feet, and it left a crater about shit like the size of a truck. And so the idea that if he had this much explosive, yeah, it was going to pulverize everything in a very large area to dust. And that's basically what happened at that building. So, like, I really kind of throw away a lot of the conspiracy theories, because I was like, no, that's probably enough to do what you saw there. And
it's a lot of boom.
If he was any better and had better engineering skills, it probably would have been a lot worse. Like, yeah. So it's God damn this man. That was, yeah, one of the worst single person attacks, I think, in American history.
At this point, this was the largest, and may still be to this day, I believe, for a domestic terrorist attack. This is the largest. Anyway, immediately following this, so of course rescue workers are trying to find and save anybody they can. Meanwhile, McVeigh jumped into his getaway vehicle without license plates. It was a yellow 1977 Mercury Marquis, and started driving north on Interstate 35. He was pulled over for not having plates. And after the officer came up and asked, do you know what I pulled you over for? He went to go reach, and the officer saw like a bulge in his coat, or he saw a firearm. So the officer reached in, grabbed the firearm in his waist, and put a gun to McVeigh's head. This is according to the officer, the arresting officer. And McVeigh said, "Hey, just so you know, that's loaded." And the officer holding the gun to his head, so is mine. Very fucking cowboyish. Way to go, Oklahoma fucking state trooper. But anyway,
I was about to say, I like that reply. Just so you know, it's loaded. Yeah, well, so's mine.
Yeah. So they arrest him, not knowing anything that he's involved in this bombing or anything, just for having the firearm, no plates and whatever. So FBI takes him a couple days, and they run a search because I think it was the axle of the Ryder truck. They were able to get the VIN number off of that. And then they were able to trace it back to the rental company, and eventually were able to trace it back to McVeigh at this point, and then ran a search on him and found out he was actually about to be released from this jail.
Hey, don't do that.
Yeah. So they put a block on it, showed up, and when they asked him, they're like, "Hey, FBI, you know what we're here for? He's like, yeah, probably about that Oklahoma City thing.
Yeah,
so
we got him. We got him. That's what the agent's like. Yep, this is the guy.
Yeah. So he wanted to get caught. He wanted to be a martyr for his cause. But the surprising moment when he got walked out of the courthouse on April 21st, 1995, they walk him out of the courthouse. There's camera crews, all kinds of stuff. Like, mind you, 19 children died in this incident. The nation was pissed. Everybody was pissed. They didn't give a shit about gun rights at this point. You killed 19 children and 150 plus other people. So when they start walking him out, what he thought would be this like chant of yes, yes, and he thought he was going to be, you know, the greatest pro wrestler fucking entrance ever, turned into people fucking screaming, "Baby killer, fuck you, you need to die." All kinds of all kinds of things that you probably would say to somebody that just killed, you know, a couple dozen or, you know, over a dozen children in a federal building. So yeah, his warm welcome did not happen.
Didn't pan out.
No. Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's again that has to be one of those interesting moments where if you've ever seen like the martial arts masters who think they're like, I have the death touch, the dim mock death touch masters, and then they go in and fight a real fighter, and then you see this beautiful moment where delusion crashes into reality. Like that was one of those moments for well, I don't know, he might have been so self-deluded that it would have been like, oh, these are just paid actors to try and break my spirit or something. Like, yeah, who knows what was kicking around in his gourd at the moment.
And welcome back, Tony. If you want to catch up to where I'm hitting the casualty section on the Wikipedia part, if you want to pick up kind of where we left off, we want to talk about some of that. But like, so this dude had these delusions. He really thought he was going to be the hero of the day, and he walks out of that courtroom, and everybody hates him. He never broke character. He never broke with his thoughts and beliefs of what he really thought he was trying to do. And I guess we can talk more about this after we talk about like some of the casualties and the aftermath and then eventually what happens with him. But like, I'm curious to hear your thoughts later, both of you, of like, if this were to happen in today's climate, how different would things have been? Let that one just sit there. I planted the seed. Let it grow. Yeah, we'll go from there. Tony, are you able to pick up?
Just here quick before I get fucking booted again. Now on the front of the entire casualty and injury list, that's incredibly graphic, and there's multiple horror stories and rabbit holes we can go down on that alone. But the thing that pisses me off about it the most is just the sheer lack of foresight when it comes to the initial building process of this thing. They saved like 20 here and there, and had they actually made this building as resilient as it was supposed to be for a federal building, the casualties, they kind of looked into it a little bit. They determined that it would have been somewhere around, maybe a dozen or two, and nowhere near the fucking death toll that it would have been. Now, granted, people would have still gotten injured really, really badly, but the way that the explosions happened and the way that they cut corners in the budget when constructing this thing led to a lot more deaths than were completely necessary in a situation like this. And beside that, the complete lack of guards on duty, and there was about a 5-hour window, I believe I heard, that they didn't even have one armed guard on duty watching this place. And they had security cameras installed for roughly 10 years at this place. And they were unplugged most of the time, if ever plugged in, because that's
And they were
about
terrible
$40 in the
angles.
monthly budget.
Yeah, and they were terrible angles. Like they didn't even capture the truck or the explosion with them. The ones that they did have plugged in.
Oh, and I get what you're saying, T. Like, yes, the security should have been better. It should have been built.
This badly.
Yes, that should have been the case, but also, I mean, goddamn, nobody in that fucking Oklahoma federal building thought they were going to be on the front lines of some fucking whack job's fucking internal war in his mind. And so, yeah, like, I get it.
No,
they weren't doing
not the point, though. That has nothing to do with it. This is a federal building. You should be on guard. Like, why are we cutting corners for $40 a month by not having the cameras set up or set up properly? Why are we leaving windows of time open for no good reason? To me, now this is me putting the fucking tinfoil hat on, because that alone tells me that there was purposely openings left for something like this to happen, because somebody wanted something to happen. That's where my mind goes with this, because it's just such a silly oversight to save basically nothing. Putting the cameras up, having a guard would have not really cost them anything else in terms of budget.
Whenever it comes to a government fuck up, and it sounds like, in your scenario here, that's kind of what it is. I usually chalk up incompetence more of a result than malice. That now, like, there's times where I think malice comes into play, but I don't think this was one. I think it was more of incompetence.
Yeah, again, like, I understand, yes, there should have been more guards on duty. There should have been greater reinforcements. But again, it's like, goddamn, it's a federal building in the middle of Oklahoma. They're not expecting it to be used for anything other than office work. Shit. Like, they did, like, again, like, the fact that it wasn't bomb-proof isn't on them. It's on the asshole that bombed them a little bit, I'd say.
No, it's
well,
not.
How dare you, Phil?
It's not that it wasn't bomb-proof. It's that they cut standard building procedures just to save a few bucks. I understand this happens all the time, but this is a federal building. This is a giant 9-story building with a fucking daycare center in it. Why are we cutting corners? And why are we leaving windows of time open? Now, I'm not just saying, oh, yeah, this was an inside job, clearly because of that alone.
Just asking questions.
I'm not saying it just because of that. Because if you look at this thing as a whole, and one guy went down for this, even though we had multiple.
Two guys went down. One guy got,
one guy went down for the count. One guy is going to die in prison. When we can basically confirm now with documents released years and years later that this did take multiple people. We know it. We know it wasn't just Timothy McVeigh. We know this now. But they basically took one guy and said, yep, this is good enough for us because we fucked up 2 things previously to this so badly that we're so fucking scared to even bother doing our job at this point. We're just going to be happy that we got this one guy. And yep, that's a job well done. Is it just a sheer lack of confidence in themselves to actually do an investigation because they're so scared that they're going to start a fucking war with the neo-Nazis? Go ahead and drink. Or is there somebody within the ranks that's kind of directing this thing? Now, personally, I think that this is just me. This is just an allegation from me. I think if you look at this thing as a whole, you've got Timothy McVeigh as a patsy. He is an obvious patsy. This guy didn't work alone. He had help. He had cohorts. But he had the chance to get out and escape. Now, you're saying he wanted to be a martyr, and I believe a part of him did want to be a martyr. But I think he was set up so fucking well by these other groups that put him in this position because they didn't want to be the ones on the Waco front line or the Ruby Ridge front line. They just wanted one guy to take the fall. They wanted this big, bad, nasty event to happen, but they wanted one guy to take the fall, and that's exactly what happened. And I think it took a few people working from the inside to make that happen.
You know, that is something that's certainly possible. Now, again, it's one of those, Tony's going on the principle I was saying earlier, no proof, but do you really need a weather vane to know which way the wind is blowing? It's one of those, again, I could see some government agents trying to play a little CYA, especially for the incidences you had talked about earlier. It's like, okay, we need to bring this motherfucker down. And yeah, man, we can't let the fact that we cut a few corners in the building of this particular building be known. But again, this motherfucker need to go down. So, you know, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I'd go Patsy Fall Guy exactly.
They got the right guy. Don't get me
The
wrong.
brother's
They got the
still in
right
prison.
guy.
The other brother, I don't know
But
how
he
the other
was just
brother
one of a
avoided
few.
prison. Oh, all right. So Tony posits the more people theory. Interesting. So, folks, let us know in the comments what you think about that.
Absolutely.
Who do you think were the other unnamed conspirators? Ooh, this one's juicy.
So we know Timothy McVeigh being the big name in this, Terry Nichols being a conspirator in it. I believe he was convicted of 161 counts of first degree murder. Is that correct? Holy shit! Anyway, he's not getting
he'll
out.
die in prison.
And then
a couple of times.
The other ones were Michael Fortier and his wife Lori. Michael did 12 years in prison, had to pay a $75,000 fine, but agreed to testify against the others and is now in witness protection. I believe he was released from prison in 2006.
Who's that?
That's Michael Fortier.
Okay. I guess I've been cutting in and out. I apologize for that, but have you brought up Roger Moore involved in all this yet?
No, I have not.
What?
Okay. No, not the actor, not James Bond.
Okay, I was like, well, what?
No, I'm not going that far down the fucking
I was
path.
raised on James Bond, Roger Moore movies, motherfucker. Like, wait, what? Whoa. Okay.
If you, I'll try to use what little internet I have to pull up these
Please, Seth, I want some more.
Timothy McVeigh and Roger Moore connections, but Roger Moore was another one of his friends and acquaintances who actually had some expertise in building explosive devices. Now, Timothy McVeigh went and stayed with him for about a 10-day period, I believe it was, and while he was there, supposedly he figured out the different combinations and locking mechanisms to come back at a later date and steal explosive materials and devices and guns and ammunition, etc. And then Roger Moore would basically tell anybody who would listen, that Timothy McVeigh came and raided all my ammunitions and all my stuff. Oh, did I tell you? Did you hear? Have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Basically just planting the seeds that, Timothy McVeigh did this. Yet, there were handwritten letters from Roger Moore using a surname of like Bob or something, basically going along the lines of, yep, we need a big event. We need something bad to happen. This has got to be what it has to be. And you got to do this and this and this. Burn this letter after you read it. And they got a hold of that. They got a hold of one of these letters. He didn't fucking burn it. And essentially, he admitted that it was him using a surname, but he was saying, "Well, I was just going along with it because I was afraid for my life, and I was hoping to get him arrested, and I was going to have the FBI come and arrest him when he came back to the farm. But golly, I couldn't get to a phone in time." This guy was an absolute 110% accomplice, but as far as I know, didn't serve any fucking time for it, and they didn't even bother investigating him, which is another reason I'm positive that he maybe at least had friends working this case. There were people on this case that just didn't bother turning over a few stones for whatever reason.
Yeah. Along with that, like, so the conspiracy theories you can talk about, like, could the bomb have actually like blown up the building like that, in the way that it did? But there's all kinds of this story. Like the details of it, like we can't get into all the details of Oklahoma City bombing tonight, but the details of it, the digger you deep, there's just so many inconsistencies that you're just like, wait, I thought you said that happened. Then how could that happen? Like, so, like one of them was, so there's conflicting reports of, did Bill Clinton in the White House know of a potential bombing? Okay, there's conflicting reports on that. Whatever. Okay, so that's your number one conspiracy. Like, how high does this go? But then there's other smaller ones. Like, not only like I don't think it would have went that high, and if it did, nobody was listening because the White House doesn't listen anyway. But like, how high did people know that this could have been a possibility? There's several reports that this had been like, hey, this attack's being planned at this location on this day, and very little was done to prevent or investigate. Then there was also other things about like bombs afterwards inside the building. There was claims of charges. Allegedly, there was claims. I said claims. There's claims of charges.
Let me just throw an extra one in there.
Planted inside the buildings prior to the explosions. There was all kinds of things saying McVeigh was a scapegoat or he was a patsy, like Tony had said. A lot of people still think this was not necessarily neo-Nazi, but maybe in drink. But maybe this had to do with the Bin Laden terrorist attacks back in the early 90s. He went after the World Trade Center. This wasn't far apart from that. There's a lot, but there are inconsistencies in the investigation story, and just in general, like there's a lot of things they did not look into. They took a lot of things at face value in this investigation and said, Timothy McVeigh fucking did it. He's all in on admitting it, and he wants to be put to death. He wanted to die. Like, he wanted death by cop, and he got it. Like, ultimately, they put him to death. What was it, in 2001? They ultimately got what they wanted. They put somebody to death for everything here. This also led to some interesting questions in recent history, with Merrick Garland being questioned by the Senate of, are you against the death penalty now, even though you were the one that presided over the case of Timothy McVeigh, and you were for the death penalty at the time, but now you're not. Like,
what? What? Merrick Garland was the guy that presided over Timothy McVeigh's case. Get the fuck out of here.
Yep. Small fucking world, isn't it?
I was just about to say, it is a small legal world. Holy shit. Like, wow.
One thing I wanted to
I'm having my Marv moment right now, and just like that, a whopper of a puzzle piece fell in my lap, but I'm too stupid to put it all together yet.
One of the things I wanted to point out about this, when Timothy McVeigh was arrested, he was armed. I'm sure you guys covered this while I was in and out, but he was armed, but he gave himself up with absolutely no hesitation. Right? That's what he did, because, like you said, he wanted go down for this. He wanted the credit for this. But keep this in mind. He cased this place. He had like 3 different targets in mind.
Yep.
And he picked this place, right? He knew the ins and out of this building. He knew where he parked the van in accordance with like the daycare center. He wanted the biggest impact possible. He blew up a building with a van parked directly under the daycare center of the building and killed children on purpose. Yet when he was arrested and armed by the cops, he didn't even positively think about fighting back, resisting arrest, or shooting the cop, because he absolutely could have. And for a guy who distrusts the government as much as this guy, he didn't even think about hurting this cop that arrested him. So not only is this guy a worthless patsy and was manipulated into doing this, in my opinion, he's a complete and utter fucking coward.
Well, you're at least half right. You
can't debate the one half. The other half you can try to debate. So you're more than likely more than half right.
So it's kind of funny. He seemed all eager to give his life until it came down to nut cutting time, and then let's get a couple blocks away and then get my getaway car. So
brought up the getaway car was a fucking joke, because he didn't even use like an actual fake name to register this thing. The entire setup of the getaway this all night, whether or not he wanted to get caught. And I'm positive he at least wanted credit for this, if nothing else. To die a martyr, maybe that is debatable, depending on what mind frame he was in at the time. But if you wanted to make this kind of an impact, and he did, for better or worse, you would think that there would have been some end game other than him getting caught and just dying for it. If he was being led by another group altogether, you can go either way with that. Either, yep, he gets caught, he takes a fall for it, we had our big event, or they just didn't do a very good job of protecting him for whatever reason. So you can go a few different ways for this, but I absolutely don't think that he was the mastermind behind this. I think he was definitely being pushed in multiple different directions for the cause of some other people. I think he was being influenced by a lot of other groups in this case. So, no, McVeigh was not a mastermind. He wasn't a genius. He wasn't an idiot, but he was a coward and a piece of shit.
Yeah, no, we referenced the vehicle a little bit earlier. Tony's right. Like, he purposely did not put tags on the vehicle. It was a 1977 Mercury Marquis, if I remember correctly. Yep. It was an old yellow piece of shit fucking vehicle. And then you got
left a note on it.
Yeah. You left a note saying, "Please don't tow me. It needs a battery and a cable. I'll be back in a couple days," or whatever.
Nope.
Yeah. Nope. He had I don't know, as far as his history, anything we might have missed. The only thing else I see is PTSD from being in the war and seeing kids going through issues, and his own childhood being bullied. I don't know. I don't know how much you want to put stock into that. I think anybody can claim any amount of bullying, depending on how traumatized you think you are by it. But
you see this right here?
Yeah, I don't think it's PTSD.
Yeah. That's my tiny violin playing for all of Timothy McVeigh's sad stories. Yeah, I couldn't care less. So folks, this was a truly tragic event that didn't have to happen. Now, again, when we're saying how much did people know, that's what makes lone wolf events so shocking, is because there's no way to perceive it coming. And so, but now, to me, I see it as kind of a lone wolf event, but I will even concede, Tony, you've got me in a very interesting conundrum where I am saying he is both a low IQ self-aggrandizer without much brain power and the criminal mastermind. So, folks, let me know what you think in the comments about all of this. Let us know what you think in the comments about what way, what direction. What do you think about the events that happened on that fateful day and the man that perpetrated it? We want to know which way do you fall down, because just like with any major event in our history, whether you're talking about 9/11, JFK, what have you, where the mind cannot comprehend the outcome, it will invent a conspiracy theory. It's one of the strangest mechanisms of the human mind that you can count on every time to show up. So this is one that I want to know, all of you, what you think of it. But gentlemen, I'm curious, what's any of your final thoughts on this?
I kind of want to know, like, if this were to have, like the question I posed earlier, you move the timeline on this with the rhetoric we have today, how do you think this would have played out?
Today, had this gone the way it basically played out, I don't see the same response, because since this has happened, we've had so many different national emergencies. We've had specifically 9/11 and the response to that. I don't want to say we've gotten better at it. I don't want to say we've gotten worse at it. I think it's just it's a different landscape altogether. Obviously, the times changed, but I think the response to this would have been much, much different. I think the investigation would have been much more thorough within moments, hours, days, weeks of the event actually happening. I think, I I don't think they would have drug their feet, because let's face it, the investigation, this was very lackluster. Again, for better or worse, for whatever reason, wink, wink, maybe. I just don't see anybody being able to do that and make this thing go for as long as it did without somebody going down for it pretty quickly. I will just leave you with this. If you want to go down the rabbit hole further with the whole John Doe number 2, one of the most well-known John number 2 sightings, which was highlighted during the trial of Terry Nichols.
Oh, we're on
the clerk
suspense.
who saw him explode. And McVeigh didn't smoke. But Warner says the cigarettes mentioned in the reports were the same kind that this man named Paraga smoked. And this guy was a pretty nasty bastard. His name was, let me see here quickly, Juan Carlos Paraga. Now, he's if you want to throw darts at the conspiracy billboard, sounds like the most likely candidate to be this John Doe number 2. And there were 2 sketches, I believe, of John Doe number 2, and the first one was so far off base that it wasn't even funny. But then, for some reason, another rendering of the man was spot on with a lot of the supposed suspects. So there's a lot of open ends in this, and I think that just goes back to, if something like this happened now, when we see national tragedies happen in this day and age, like, we're on top of the son of a bitch before the day's over. Like, the suspects typically get cornered anymore. If somebody tries to play warrior amongst civilians and go shoot something up, we're on top of that person. We're not starting wars with fucking cults or little compost huts out here in the middle of nowhere. We find the individuals responsible and we're on top of it. It's a different day and age, and there's cameras everywhere. And that's the big difference now. You can't get away with anything now.
And Tony raises an excellent point of how different the response would be in our post 9/11 world. It would and so that is what would really change everything. There would be a task force that would befall Oklahoma City within hours that's combing over everything. And also, the other thing that would change it, these things.
Yep.
These things. They would have just gone with every cell phone ping of anybody that had been within a 6-block area that entire day. And they would have figured out who was what and who did everybody talk to that day. There would be a 9/11 style commission. It would be, there would be some thorough combing, and it would have, like Tony said, it would not have been, there wouldn't have been corners cut, not only in the building, but also the investigation. So that would be one of the biggest differences. Also, legally, you could expect there would be some sort of lockdown of something. I mean, I don't know what, like now the fertilizer thing, I think that would probably just ban some certain chemical fertilizers in the country rather than it being highly regimented as to how you get it. So that would have been one of those things that would have definitely changed in my life if it had happened now versus then. So God, yeah, you raise a great question as to what would how would that be different? When you try and play these alternative histories, you're always going to have a little bit of fuzziness, and you always kind of figure you're about 60% right because there's really no way to falsify it. But as we know, history is kind of a weird engine. So I'm going to go ahead and say I agree with Tony in part, but I do think, legally speaking, there would be some aspect of daily life that would be cracked down on significantly to show everybody that we're doing something.
I would probably take it, and no, I appreciate both those perspectives. I would probably take it and trying to look at this through today's lens, and the rhetoric we have today, the complete utter lack of civil dialogue and the hatred that seems to be just perpetuated every single day on whether it be media broadcasts or whatever. But when I try to slide this timeline into today, I fear I fear we're not at the Oklahoma City level of it. I think we're closer to the Ruby Ridge level of this whole timeline. Drink, by the way. I think we're at the beginning of what could go really wrong. And here's a couple thoughts. We know what happens when the right goes too far. When the far right pushes and goes crazy, you end up with forms of fascism and some crazy, ridiculous, fucking racist, weird shit. That can happen. We've fought it, we've squashed it, and it's never come back. Now, today, like everybody's like, we don't know how far the left can go. I'm like, yeah, you do. Look at Mao. You look at a lot of.
Just about to bring them up.
Like, and so like we have historical examples of political rhetoric going too far in the extremes, and then I take these incidents.
Oh, look at North Korea right now.
Yeah, but you take these incidents and you move them into 2020 to 2030 timeline. I am scared to fucking death that something similar will happen. You look at Joe Biden's appointees. You look at the political rhetoric. You look at the lack of investigative journalist integrity in anything today. This is like
a lack of empathy to anybody who disagrees with you.
So
that's huge.
If you've watched all three of these videos, or even just this one, if you just watched this one, go back, watch the first two. This was a good timeline to see how fucking quick things can escalate from, hey, yeah, just minding my own business, to Oklahoma City bombing, fucking crazy loser, fucking blowing shit up. And he felt justified by it. Like it went from Randy Weaver, who was probably in all likeliness just a normal fucking dude minding his own business. He had some friends that had some fucking weird fucking thoughts and some bad ideas, but he never did anything. He never really did a whole lot to, break the law other than being fucking entrapped by the FBI and sign off a shotgun. Otherwise, the dude was just living in
another guy set up to be a patsy.
Yeah. And that one got exposed. And then you have the incident with Koresh. Now, Koresh was a little stranger, a little weirder, still a fucked up situation. A little. Still a really fucked up situation, though, that should not have gone down the way it did. And you saw an over excessive force from the U.S. government post Ruby Ridge drink. And then you have this guy. This is the ultimate result. When you have these terrible fucking when you go after ideologies or even people that just want to be left alone, or you're like, when you are so upset because somebody doesn't believe what you want them to believe, and you want them to just follow the indoctrination of the government, and they want to be left alone, this potentially is what happens. And then you place that into the setting of today in the post 2020 election era. Holy fucking shit. I am scared to death that we're going to have a modern day Randy Weaver that's going to incite more. And then you'll eventually make it to a Timothy McVeigh, and people will actually look at him as a martyr. The way people see things today. So my caution to you as the audience, make sure you're grounded in your thought processes. Like, don't just watch the news. Don't just watch Blaze TV. Don't just watch YouTube. Jesus Christ. Watch the Dog and Chicken Show. We'll keep you on a level head. We'll make sure, like, hey, like, yep, that's fucked up what happened. That's fucked up what happened to Randy Weaver. I get it. His friends kind of sucked, and there's some bad apples in there, but the dude got fucked over. Koresh? Yeah. The dude probably should have surrendered and come out and thought of the children a little bit first. And yeah, sometimes religion goes a little too far, but still the US government kind of fucked that whole thing up. Yeah, I get it. I get it.
Now,
It's not time to pull up arms. And then you have the Oklahoma City bombing. And you're like, dude, no, wrong reaction. What are you doing? We want to stop you from getting to that point.
now, guys, to make this topical and to bring this all back around into one circle, and for a lot of folks, so you can understand why this series was made and why Chicken's got these concerns. This is something I want you to keep in mind. Chicken, you're talking about how Randy Weaver, and like even I said, that was patient zero for so much of what changed in American life, and it truly transformed the right. And you're talking about what happens when the left, when this starts to happen to the left, and you're wondering, are things going to accelerate? I have two words that carry a lot of weight, and I want you to think about it. And I want a lot of folks to juxtaposition it in their mind to the story of Randy Weaver that Chicken was just saying. George Floyd.
Yep.
Do you feel it? Do you feel it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, folks. Well, like we are on the precipice of a new age where I don't know what American life is going to look like in 20 years, but I hope we can all come together and learn to love one another. We will see how that happens. And in all of those happenings and all of those events, you will come here and we will learn them together. We will discover them together. We will explore them together here on the Dog and Chicken Show, folks. Chicken, Tony, on this particular topic, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Tony, what are your final thoughts on all this?
I do have one quick little wrap up on Timothy McVeigh. I don't know if you guys touched on this while I was in and out, but his last meal, do you know what it was?
Cheeseburger from McDonald's.
No.
40,000 volts.
Well,
or no, he was lethal injection. So
yeah, he's lethal injection. So it was
lethal,
like, it was a whole bunch of formaldehyde. Yeah.
No, his last meal, 2 pints of mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Mint chocolate chip? You're going to waste your last meal on a shitty fucking ice cream? Fuck that, dude.
Yep.
Jesus.
Well, he's a shitty fucking person, so what do you expect? His last words, I can't verify if this is 100% accurate, but his last words, a quote from the 1875 poem Invictus by William Ernest Henley. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Now, yeah, that's purely speculation.
He was the master of his fate. That's for sure.
Well, he was one of them.
Not after the cuffs were slapped on him.
Oh no, that's what he wanted. He wanted to die. So,
well, I do have one more question for you guys concerning this, if you don't mind me asking. It's a simple question. Marry, fuck, kill. Randy Weaver, David Koresh, Timothy McVeigh. Go.
Marry one, fuck one, kill one.
Well, whether we like it or not, we're going to be persuaded into marrying David Koresh. So we're apparently marrying whether we like it or not.
No.
Chicken, you say no now. Let that motherfucker talk to you for 10 minutes.
No, I'm going to fuck Koresh. I'm gonna marry Weaver because he got a $3 million settlement from the government.
Oh,
yep. This motherfucker's spitting.
He's wanting that white picket fence. Yep.
Chicken's 100% on. 100%. Fuck Koresh, marry Randy Weaver. Because let's face it, Randy Weaver got fucked over with his first wife.
And he's a sweet guy, it seems.
Probably looking to rebound.
And pause for edit.
And obviously kill Timothy. Coward piece of shit.
No, we're probably just gonna leave that one in there too.
I don't think
some of these like little cringe parts are fucking fun. That's the best part.
Oh God, this is awful.
Exactly.
So Chicken, anything else you'd like to say to the folk?
No, Phil.
Well, folks,
do it.
As I'm known to say around here, all that being said, thank you for joining us for this coverage and this recap of this event that was the Oklahoma City bombing and all of the surrounding events. We want to know what you think about this. We want to know what your thoughts are. We want to know, give us your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe right here. Big Buckin' Empire YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. You can find me, the devilishly handsome outlaw himself, your King of Extreme, Phil KOE, at KOE Nation on YouTube and Twitch, where you can see all the KOE content of the prince and potentate of the political parlance of the man of the hour, the man with the power, the man that makes the other podcast cower, and the reigning, a defending Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast champion. You can find me, Tony and Chicken, definitely over there at Revolutionary Wrestling Podcast. But folks, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Raise a glass to yourselves, and I hope to find every last one of you back here at the Dog and Chicken Show. Happy, healthy, much the wiser. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. God bless every last one of you. I hope you all make it out safe. Tony, Chicken, take it away.
Cheers, folks. And Tony is a little still right now.
Yes.
He's got a long cheers. This is a dramatic cheers, is what we have going on right now.
Yeah. Hey!
There he is.
That's what we're getting, folks. So thank you, folks. Thank you. God bless every last one of you.
As always, folks, check us out Thursday. We will be live the following week. This, of course, was pre-recorded. Sorry we didn't get to your comments. Make sure you send us emails. Drop shit in the comments. Share the video. All that good stuff. You know what to do, folks. Check us out on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, all the places. Phil already went through all that shit. Let's round out the night. As always, appreciate you, folks. We love you. Good night. Take care of each other. And don't get crazy on us. Appreciate you. Love you. Bye.
And see if it just smooths itself out.
Get back, tell you what I'll do. If I ever get back, I promise to refabricate you. Raging rivers of gold. That's what the brochure advertised. And now we're lost. We gotta take it down. Let you down slow. It's hard to survive.